And that's all I got. Any questions for you guys?
What is the process on testing? You said it's open testing. How does
Okay.
that work?
So if you go to their website, you're going to sign up for an eligibility list, and they're going to notify you when the test is going to happen. And there will be a list of minimum qualifications, and they are fairly minimum. I'm not sure what they are now. It's been a long time since I got hired. But there are certain preference points you can get for having like an EMP certification, or if you're a veteran. It's all spelled out within that. So when you sign up for this, you get put on a register that when the next test is due, they'll reach out to you and explain the process to you. Along with that, there are interview preparation classes that are made available to all candidates to help them do a little bit better and not be so intimidated by the process. So it's spelled out within that. The first step is logging on, expressing your interest, and within that application, it'll show what the minimum qualifications are. So it's pretty straightforward.
So is it written and physical?
There's a written
ability,
and interview
or-
component.
Okay.
If you pass the written and get to the interview, then you'll do what's called the candidate physical agility test. And you go out to our training tower where you do various firearm related tasks that are designed to be general in nature, so anybody can prepare for it without having specific fire department knowledge. So, and then it determines whether you meet the minimum qualifications to be a firefighter physically. And then once that's done and you're on the list, if you're high enough to be selected, you go to an academy, and that's going to be about 15 weeks of very arduous physical work and academics, where we decide whether we want to buy you for 30 years. And then if you're lucky enough to get through, then you join our ranks and join the great department, which is Salt City Fire Department. Yes, sir.
I saw you rolled out a social worker squad, sort of like the police department has.
Yes.
Is that, do a lot of homeless outreach and stuff? Is that a group that we can contact direct to report things, or does that go like to dispatch when they get called out?
Well, so we've rolled out 3 social worker teams, actually. We've got 3 chat members, and it's expanding. We're just bringing on additional chats, the community health action team. I can't remember the exact acronym stands for. They're the social workers that are tied in with our medical response teams. And primarily they respond along with us to lower acuity calls, and also people that are super users in the system or that we identify as needing help. So a lot of times the people that are homeless on the street, it's pretty obvious they need help. But even more than that, we get people in their own homes that are challenged with mobility issues, or they're afraid to even call for help because they don't want to be sent to a home. And so we try to plug them in with resources so they can be helped in their home the best way possible. And we've hired, I think we've got 6 now, including with an additional supervisor, that are rolling this with various stations. We've got Station 5, Station 6, and then we've got a headquarters health social worker that can come out and help figure out what resources we need. So that's how the model works primarily. It's with first response. I'd have to get back with you to find out about if the community can look for and feed information to them. Obviously, if you see someone that's in need or know someone's in need, you should do something about it. And if you don't know what to do, you can call our non-emergency line, and you can find that online, and you can ask to be connected with our community health team, and they'll be able to help you out. Anything else?
You want to introduce your team?
Yep.
Yeah, are they on there?
No. Well, one of them is in the back. Yeah, the guy in the back is looking at the sign. That's Craig Warren. He's my engineer. He just had his 30-year anniversary on the job just the other day. And 30 years on the job, he's still all about the job, and that's amazing. I've got Ryan Schroeder. He's only got a few years with us, but he comes from us from Sandy. He's got about 17, 18 on the job. Very experienced, also a great team member. Then you've got Rich Platt, the man with the magnificent mustache back there. He's a longtime Sugar House veteran. I'm sure you've probably seen him on the street, at least seen his mustache anyway as he goes by. As he let me know right when I first came in, he's kind of the main guy around here. He's my main guy. He helps, he makes it so I don't mess up.
Thanks for coming. Last, you want to come up? So it was caucus night last night, so a few of us went up there. So people are making the rounds to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Landon. I'll just take a few minutes. The reason I'm here today is to introduce you to a candidate who's running for Senate. Her name is Carolyn Gleick. I think a few of you may be familiar with her. She's a very famous mountaineer. She's climbed several peaks over 8,000 meters, including Everest. She's climbed the highest mountain in Antarctica, and she's famous for doing multiple very, very dangerous ski descents throughout the world. She has a really good multimedia presence. She's got hundreds of thousands of followers. And she's decided to throw her hat in the ring to run as a Democrat for the vacancy of Mitt Romney. 4 decades ago, I came to Utah. When I came here, I went to graduate school. And when I graduated, I started an internship in Mayor Ted Wilson's office. And while I was there, Cal Rampton was governor, and he turned it over to Scott Matheson. Frank Moss was our senator. And it was a state where we had a little bit more diversity in our politics. She thinks we should bring that to this state as well. But politics really have changed. Back then, the Democrats worked across the aisle with Republicans. I remember there was Jake Garn and Bob Bennett come to mind. Also during that time, three wilderness areas were passed. The Mount Olympus area, Lone Peak, and White Pine. But Ted Wilson was not a tree hugger. He realized that we have to compromise. One thing he did was he created the Central Utah Project. That project made our valley much more viable and gave us clean water. Caroline's really concerned about the environment. She's a very strong environmental advocate, but she understands that we do have to compromise. So I hope that you will all consider voting for her. She also supports our government treaties with nations throughout the world. She feels that NATO should be strong and viable. She advocates for a strong planet, and I hope that you'll all consider voting for her. One thing I did was I've skied a lot with her and climbed with her, and she's really well prepared. She's young. I know that a lot of us are concerned about some of the older gentlemen that are in politics today, but I'll vote for an older man because he's wise, but I think she'll bring a lot of enthusiasm to this. And I like to think of her as the common sense candidate. I've got a phrase that I like here that I'd like to say. Caroline is like a fresh breeze wafting over the barren field of Special Olympic politics. Thank you.
All right, Brandon, you want to come up? Are you guys both? So these are the co-chairs of the Sugar House Chamber, Erica and Brandon.
Hello again, everybody. It's your friendly volunteers with the Sugar House Chamber. First of all, want to give a big thank you to everybody who came to Violet. It was a really great showing of folks, both chamber people and everybody from the community. We overloaded them a little bit as a result, which I don't think they appreciated, but I think that everybody was really impressed with the way they handled it and the food. So, segue, we'd like to invite you to our next one.
Oh, on the 13th at Quarters, which is, if you haven't been there yet, it is an arcade for adults. So it's over 21, have some cocktails or beers or just, whatever beverage of your choice and play some games. They have a huge collection of pinball machines, which is where you'll find me. But if you happen to be an aficionado of fun arcade type games and good conversation, this is the event to come out and join us. So that is on the 13th from 6 to 8 at Quarters here in Sugar House. That's all we've got. It is on 2100 South, right across from Monument Plaza. Corner of McClellan, right next to Carumba.
So we'd love to see y'all there.
All right, Kira, we're gonna have Bill Knowles go, and then you'll be next, okay? Billy, you ready? You probably interrupted cocktail hour at this guy's house.
She's going to be giving you an update on some of the fun you're seeing down there on 21st South.
Hey, Leah, you want to come up now too? Okay. Let's just do
We can ham and egg this thing. Yeah, I am going to talk better now.
Okay.
Now that I know she's coming up to help me out. But yeah, we're here. And she'll give you a little bit more of that. I had a couple of notes on some of the other private projects going on and of some interest. Come on over here. Yeah, we'll partner up on this one. She is our partner. Or vice versa. But anyway, a lot of stuff going on as usual. But we are making progress, and I think one of the things I'll say in advance of her presentation here is that we've heard, seen, known about this coming for a long time, and now it's here. So now the best part is getting through it. But we've got a couple other things going, and I'll turn the mic over to her. The Altaterra project is still been a fun deal going for us, but we are making some progress there. We're getting some no parking, well, I shouldn't say that, 2-hour parking signs put up at the park so as to restrict the contractor from soaking up all of the parking places there for people wanting to visit the park. There you go. And we've actually, in concert with that, we've been finding them some parking to put their trucks and their workers in. So that's being worked out with the Boys and Girls Club right now, and everything is moving along nicely on that front. The other side of that is that they will be starting finally after 2 years and 2 months on the utility project, the sewer connection that they have to make up from Ashton around 11th East and over to Simpson. That is finally going to happen after, and the water line, yes. And it was, I just personally, I'll tell you about this. It was 2 weeks, starting 2 years ago, last January, it was going to happen in 2 weeks. And 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks from them, and then 2 weeks from them, and then from 2 weeks, and then more 2 weeks. And here we are. And it's going to, they actually got their permit. They have got their permit. So now they'll be moving seriously forward, and just in time to have us sweating bullets about the other projects and our 21st South project and the ultimate extension of the streetcar line. So all of this is supposed to come together pretty nicely with all the heads working on it. I'm going to give you confidence that it will work, but there'll be a little patience as usual involved. There will be one time where there'll be westbound traffic on Simpson will be closed, if I remember correctly, while they connect the water main. They're going to do that probably earlier than later, and then moving southward on 11th East. That's the Altaterra project. If we happen to know the guys across the street here, they're actually going to do a little bit more work on the corner here to make friends back with the city. They volunteered after a little bit of nudging and encouragement to put in a new pedestrian but ADA approved walkway on this corner across the street here. Yeah, so that's coming. That will happen after, or I shouldn't say that, in the middle of the spring break, because we said, what about the kids walking to school? Okay, so now we're going to do it in the spring break. It'll be about a 3 or 4 day process. And they are also going to be opening up sometime in the next week or two. They've only missed 17 deadlines now, but I think they're going to open up the northern part of the project for occupancy in about 2 weeks. And that means we're only another month, 2 months, 6 months, 10 months until they're done with the rest of it. But they'll be done someday. And, yeah, could be a spring. That's the new date.
They didn't say what year.
They just had to take all the brick off because they forgot to put waterproofing board underneath.
Oh.
Sorry about that. We have established, just a little side note here, there is an award given each year now going forward to the worst contractor in the city, and it's called the Rimrock Award. And we nominated, put their name on it as to being, this is the new honor for you. And now going forward, anybody who matches, and maybe they'll just keep getting it, I don't know. But it could be someone else could get the Rimrock Award.
as it goes on. But I think I had one more quick one. Oh, there is some, I think, worth noting that there's been a lot of work put into with the utilities department. If anyone here, or I don't know, I don't see anybody here, but I would give them kudos for working with us to the point of fixing this project coming up of adding capacity to the sewer line instead of doing it 2 years and 3 years from now when these new projects come online, these new apartments at Snowgrove's property, the Midas Muffler Shop at the Elm Street, all of these projects coming online required additional capacity in the sewer line. Instead of just doing a little sewer line fix-up like they began to do and was going on here recently, it became apparent that it would be a good idea if we did all of this stuff now. And so we've been coordinating here over the last couple of weeks. And as of just this afternoon, I can report, we've got a plan going forward to save everybody a lot of agitation.
That's an IQ test, don't you know?
Yeah, well, I was just, like yelling at the guy and swearing at him a lot. And then there became somebody got mad at that. That's how that worked. But anyway, we are moving forward with that. And I just want to say that there's people that care about that. It care about you, and I do get emotional about that, but it is a fact. They do care, and so with that about caring, we're going to talk about. Here's your
You
job.
set me up.
Tell them how to get those rodeos.
I'm Leah Jaramillo. I'm one of the public engagement team members for the Primary Drive and 21st South Roadway reconstruction projects. In case you didn't come to the Meet the Contractor open house that was last Thursday at Highland High School, we had about 100 folks come, so that was pretty good. Figure you guys didn't come because you already know. I recognize some of you did come. I see your faces, but this is the overview of the general phasing plan provided by Stacy Whitbeck, which is the contractor for Salt Lake City on the project. If you haven't noticed, they've started. They started on Monday. It's a little rough, I'm not gonna lie. It usually takes 2 weeks or so for traffic to kind of disperse to where people know they can go their way that they usually go or find a new route. So give us a minute. We are also making adjustments as we go, but you'll see in a second. We'll look at the phasing plan. But right now, we'll just mention that north side concrete removal is underway. They are saw cutting. They'll be removing all the sidewalk, curb and gutter. They'll be starting on storm drain. They'll be starting on some sewer lining has already been happening. They are working on the south side of the intersection at 9th East. That is closed, so there's no through traffic there at 9th, which is really painful. We recognize that, so they're trying to jam through as quickly as they can. They're working on the storm drain, which is very deep at that intersection. Go ahead.
Will you point out the east-west coordinates, just one? So
Certainly. This blue turquoise is the 9th East intersection. And you can see the label like right above my finger.
13, 17.
So this signal is Highland, 11th East, and then this one is 13th East.
Thank you.
Yep, so we're working essentially from 9th East to 13th East on the north side this summer, as well as at 9th East proper. And then later in the summer, like late summer, July, August timeframe, we'll flip and we'll be on the south side. And we'll complete the other half of the 9th East intersection. And then in 2025, they'll complete what's gray here, which is west from 9th East to 7th East. So the idea here is that they're expediting the work to get 2/3 of the project done this year. We had given them 2 full years. This gives them the potential to get done more quickly. I don't want to commit to that on the 3rd day of construction of a 2-year project, so I'm not going to, but it sets them up to be able to complete early. Let's go to the next slide. So if it felt narrow out there when you were driving, this is why. We only have 56 feet to put crews, trucks, equipment, maintain a clear, safe work zone, maintain sight lines for cars, and keep 10 feet per vehicle, which is the very, very minimum that we need. So if it feels tight, it is. Please slow down. Next one. This is what's happening at 9th East. In case you missed it, they are working right through the south side, so all the traffic is kind of shoved around it and back. So the next phase of this later in the summer will be the north side. One good piece of news is that UTA did decide to keep the 21 bus on 21st South, which is a big win for us. There's somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 passengers riding that route. It makes it a big route for UTA, and the only other detour route that was available was 2,700 South. So that would have been terrible, right? Nobody would have been able to get people who like to walk probably wouldn't have walked that far. So we're super pleased, but that does also mean that the bus will be stopping in the through lane. So just have some patience there. Okay. Here's where we're going. Just to remind you, the end game, the end goal, right, is an improved, more comfortable downtown Sugar House, improved pavement, new underground infrastructure, utility infrastructure, a 12-foot multi-use path on the south side, new full-width sidewalks on both sides. We're keeping about 180 trees. We're adding about 200 trees. We will lose about 27 existing trees, but overall, we have a big net gain of greenery and trees, as well as low water landscaping and improved drip irrigation. So something that's much more sustainable than what's been out there. And then this is 8th East, which becomes a full bike boulevard, no north-south traffic at 8th, but just kind of to give you an idea of how that could look. And then the last one, I'll just remind you, this is the same map I show you every time I come. We have a big program of work here improving major infrastructure routes in Sugar House. So if you have questions about any of those, there's lots of contact information on this flyer. And then our last one, we always encourage you to call us. And so if you scan this QR code, it will add the project hotline right into your phone. So you don't ever have to say, oh, where did I put that flyer? You can just save it, or if you want to save Landon's contact information or the chamber's contact information, it will input it right into your contacts. So, and then these are just kind of references if people had any questions. So I will just say, there's no left turns right now, and the signal at Highland and 21st, 11th East and 21st South is particularly difficult. So I'll just let you know that we're monitoring the signals. We're making adjustments as we can, but like I said, it takes a couple of weeks because every time we make an adjustment and people are making adjustments, those adjustments don't necessarily fit with what's happening as people are adjusting their routes. So give us a little bit of time, but if you sit at a light and it takes like 3 times for you to, it never is actually 10 minutes. I'll just say that. Start a timer and tell me what it is. You can call. But if it takes more than like 2, call us, right? Let us know so we can see it. I went through on Tuesday at 2:30 in the afternoon and it looked like rush hour, right? So that's how we know there's some tweaking and people are making those adjustments. So feel free to let us know. Just shoot an email to that email address or give us a call on the hotline and we can help monitor those things. Any questions about the construction of the project? Go ahead in the back. Oh, she's coming with a mic. Hang on one second.
Regarding the potential construction of an apartment building at the current Wells Fargo site, something sooner or later is going to be built there. So
Yes,
what
ma'am.
I'm disturbed about is the fact that we're going to all this effort to repair 21st South, including the corner of 11th East, and it'll just be torn up again after all of your hard work. That's one issue. The second is, how can we avoid that future construction on 21st South, whether it be on Highland, where the Wells Fargo is, or down farther toward the Snell Grove? How do we avoid taking out a lane of traffic? Like right here across the street for 2 years, we've been without a whole lane. How is it that we allow builders the right to take a whole lane of traffic rather than setting back their buildings sufficiently that they could park their trucks in what would be hopefully a green front yard?
So the first question Bill answered just a second ago, which is that we are working to coordinate with the future development at Wells Fargo and also at the old Snellgroves property. Typically, cities, it's very difficult to plan for all potential future land use decisions that are made, right? And so typically, cities only account for sewer and other utility-related changes for projects that are already platted, meaning that they've gone through the approvals process and they're platted and they're getting ready to go. In this case, those are still in the works, but we know they're coming, and we do not want them to cut into the brand new asphalt. We have I think it's a 5-year moratorium on asphalt, so it would prevent them from doing that. So we are coordinating on that so that they can upsize those lines. But given the growth rates that we see in Utah, it would be impossible to try to anticipate all of the potential future growth in those changes. So that's my response to the first question. The second question, setbacks are related to zoning, and there is a big change in zoning coming very soon to a neighborhood near this one and all of our city. But that zoning and those setbacks are determined by land use and those codes. In terms of contractors taking lanes, I would say that it depends on the site, right? And how big the site is, how big the building is, what's permitted based on that land use code and form. They have to park somewhere. They have to use equipment somewhere while they're doing all of those things. So there is always a trade-off. I think that we in the city in transportation and engineering recognize that the permits process has not been as efficient as we would like it to be. And there are certainly some improvements that need to be made, particularly when it comes to contractors closing sidewalks or maintaining safe pedestrian routes. I think that's maybe even more of a difficulty that we see than lane impacts. But you're right. I think there's always a trade-off, and I think we're in a real phase of growing pains in this city in particular with the amount of change and demand for housing that we're seeing, the amount of construction that's happening in our state, not just our city. So I think there's a map on the city's GIS page. You can see every permit that's been pulled. It's a nightmare. I don't like to look at it, but I look at it and you can see which utilities pulled which permit to be on what street at what time, who's building, who's out there, what they're doing. Sometimes they don't. We had a contractor show up today that didn't have a permit, and they got in big trouble. So there's just a ton of stuff going on, and the city is working to try to address some of those permitting questions. But I don't know that I can speak more to the building size and use of the parcel versus impacts to traffic.
Is any effort being made to improve the situation? Because I can see closing a lane for a week or two or a month. We have to bring in certain heavy equipment. If they've got extra land where they're putting their driveways, they have land where they have setback. And to take sidewalk and a lane, whether it's here or the next one, is not appropriate to take a whole lane. If so, you ought to be charging them big.
I do think they are charged fees for lanes. I'm not in
Might be a
planning,
good source of revenue.
so I might have to defer this one to Hannah or Councilmember Young, who may know more about these processes. But I've reached the capacity of my land use planning repertoire. I'm a little more construction focused. I'm sorry. Any other questions about 21st South? I'll just add. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, and then I have two more.
One thing down in my neighborhood, the contractor working on the apartment there by, oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Okay. We have a young lady in our neighborhood that uses her electric wheelchair to get from Smith's up to where her place is, and frequently that construction there by Fairmont Park, they dropped the big fence across there, they put trucks there. I've talked to her at the grocery store, and I know everybody says they need to get around, but this is a person who really needs to be able to get around in our neighborhood. And she hasn't been because of that construction there on the corner by the Boys and Girls Club. So that's all.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a tricky one with private development, but I would say the mayor's ADA coordinator is a great person to reach out to. There is an ADA coordinator in the mayor's office who can help specifically with those things where, if it's a city project, you can call the project team. If it's 21st South construction and she can't get around, we can help with that. But if it's private, the ADA coordinator is probably a good place to start. Yeah, absolutely. I forgot to say Highland Drive. I don't know if you guys know this, but Salt Lake City's water quality testing is really, really, really rigorous. It's more rigorous than most of our other municipalities. So sometimes that means we don't pass our water tests on the first time when we're putting new lines in. So Highland Drive has been a little slow lately because we've been waiting for that water test to pass, and it passed. So we had switched to the other side to do storm drain. They're coming back. So you'll see another flip in traffic here in the next couple of weeks on Highland Drive as they finish the storm drain and go back and start making those water line connections. But it's a milestone that we've been waiting for because it takes a long time to get those pipes in and make every single connection to every building. But that also means we can get some temporary asphalt down, because if you've driven on it in the last couple of days, it's pretty gnarly. So some temporary asphalt coming, some more progress there on Highland Drive. I think that's me, Landon. Any other construction questions? Thanks, guys.
Thank you for being respectful. Hey, see you guys. Thanks again for coming. Kira, you want to come up? Okay.
Is fair motion?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Kira Johnson. I am a planner with Public Lands Department for the city, and I'm the project. Oh, sorry, folks. I'm a planner for Public Lands, and I'm the project manager over Fairmont Park and the projects that's going to be happening there. So I'm here to present an update, and I wish it was more of an update, but at least you'll know what's happening or what's been happening behind the scenes so that you feel confident that things are happening. So you can go to the next slide here. So just a little bit of a refresher, a little bit of an understanding of the background. Fairmont Park has $6.5 million through the bond that passed in November of 22. And the first issuance or tranche of money from that bond was approved by City Council in mid-October. And we got 10% of the project budget for that. And that amount of money, that'd be $650,000, is intended for planning, community and stakeholder engagement, and design tasks. And so this first issuance of money wouldn't lead to construction, plus there's so many things that have to happen before construction. But we are starting with that planning and that community and stakeholder engagement, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. The objective of this project is to expand the level of service at Fairmont Park. We're hoping to improve the park safety and improve the dilapidated tennis courts that have been that way for 20 plus years, and try to improve that north end of the park. The specific improvements, as I have noted here, will be dependent and driven by the community, as well as decisions that are being made by the mayor's office and city council. But it is the community's park, and we want you all to feel that your values and your desires are reflected in it, and we'll make sure that the community engagement is robust and engaging, and that you have many opportunities to share your thoughts and your inputs on that. You can go to the next. This is just a little bit of an outline of how a project happens. So right now we're on step one, developing the scope of work, and I'll dive into that just a little bit here. But once the scope of work has been developed and we have a consultant on board to help us, we'll begin community engagement. And then we'll go through gathering that input, analyzing that feedback, coming back to the community with some concept designs that help you visualize what we heard, and you'll be able to say, you got it right, this is what I'm picturing, or you'll be able to say, you didn't quite capture what I had envisioned for the park. We'll take that back to the designers and come up with a final plan. And then that will go through the design development, construction documents, and then eventually bidding for contractor selection and construction. So it's a process, but we're, and I know it may seem discouraging that we're still just at step one, but we want to make it good, and we want these improvements to last, and we want them, it's truly a once in a generation opportunity to transform and reimagine this park, and we want to do it right. And so we're making sure that we're talking to all the right people and involving key stakeholders, and you'll have an opportunity to share your voice and your desires as well. So I just want to dive into what that develop the scope of work means and what that,
Do you have an idea of what the timeline could look like, though?
Yeah, I'll get there.
Within a year, or?
Sure. Yeah, I'll get there with an estimate. Yeah.
Okay.
And if I don't fully answer your question, feel free to ask again. So that develop the scope of work, what's been going on is trying to understand previous conversations and previous plans that have been made at Fairmont Park. There was involvement of the Boys and Girls Club, especially since they occupy that parcel on the north end. They're adjacent to the dilapidated tennis courts, and they're in the language that was included in the voter information packet about the bond. So we're trying to understand what that looks like and how we are involved in that process. They have come to us with a community needs assessment and a draft design for potential rebuild and expansion of their building. And so that's all parts of the conversations that complicate park improvements, because once again, we want to just make sure that the work that we're doing and the improvements that we bring isn't torn up and changed in a few years. So that's happening. There's also the Aquatic Center, and we want to be privy to what their plans are for the future and how that can incorporate into the park, how the community uses that spaces. So we're talking with the county, and then there's also the mayor's office and the city council and different conversations that they've had with different stakeholders and different community members, making sure that they're involved. And to a certain extent, some of my moving forward with scope of work for the park improvements are dependent on decisions that people above me are making. And so the work that we're working on right now is developing a request for proposals or qualifications, an RFQ. And this is to get a consultant on board to help us with that community engagement, and then to help us with the design and eventually construction admin process. The RFQ process takes so much longer than the idealist in me wants it to take, but that will take about 4 months. So I think it's in the next slide here. Okay, first, once the consultant is selected, there is also going to be a review of the scope of work, and then also them developing an engagement plan before you really see things starting. But fingers crossed, we'll be able to begin the public engagement in the park this summer or fall, and then everything kind of ricochets from that. And yes.
How much are you planning to budget for the contractors that are
So typically we plan on 40% soft cost, 60% construction budget.
Okay, I'm sorry, I meant specifically the engagement piece, the RFQ.
Oh, so that 40%, the RFQ, the consultant will help us with the engagement as well as concept design alternatives and construction admin. So that's like about 40% of the budget.
Okay, just going to consultants.
Towards that process of developing the designs, yeah.
The city has community engagement,
Right. Yes, we do. Yeah. And they're awesome. And there's so many projects within the city. And so we'll be doing a lot of, I mean, you won't, the consultant and the city team will be working closely together on that engagement.
Just to kind of, sorry to interrupt. Last night, the city council approved a new planning and design
Division. Yeah.
So can't these, I guess, why aren't we doing these things in-house? We just went through this process with Allen Park. It's a lot of money that goes out that could be applied to the park itself.
Yeah.
That's generally my point. I'd rather see you add FTEs, have that done in-house with the city rather than money going on consultants.
Totally. And I mean, adding FTEs isn't part of my job, but I understand that. And I guess the amount of projects that we each have, if we did in-house engagement for each of those projects, we wouldn't see any of these projects happen for a lot longer. So it helps quicken that. The bond funds need to be spent within a certain time period too. So there is that timeline that we're abiding by as well. So once a tranche is issued, we have to spend those funds within 3 to 5 years. And yeah. But there are other, I mean, there's projects that we do in-house when they're a smaller scale. This one being a $6.5 million project, it's such a larger scale that we want a really robust community engagement. We want to be there for many events. We want to do workshops. And if we did that in-house, it wouldn't be as large of scale.
Sounds like we need more resources for community engagement.
Wouldn't that be great? I'm on that team.
I was just gonna add that Public Lands did ramp up staffing because of the bond.
I was hired.
I think 4 or 5 of you were hired, right?
Within the planning, 2 planners were hired, and then there's currently a construction senior project manager being hired. We brought 4 landscape architects over to our team. So it is growing, but there are a lot of incredible projects happening. Yeah. I think you can, there's my contact info. If you have any questions about this, happy to answer. And if you want to stay updated, you can scan the QR code or go to the geobondparks.com/Fairmont Park. Yes.
So you did talk about how there was language for the Boys and Girls Club perhaps being reconstructed, and I'm really confused about what happened with that because it sounded like it was a done deal, and I know that Real was going to support it, and that maybe fell through. So it was not an official decision, I'm gathering.
That's been part of the confusion and the stalling, is trying to understand those and bridge those gaps and understand the partnerships and where the funding would come from. And yeah, so still some question marks there.
So I guess that was get back to my question originally. With the GEO bond, what is the timeline on when that money needs to be spent? Is it a specific 3 years?
So the first 10%, the $650,000 needs to be spent in the next 3 years, ideally 3 to 5, but hopefully 3. And a request for the second issuance of money will come later this year, probably pass early next year, which if everything goes according to plan, that would be the construction money. So that once again would have to be spent in the next 3 years from that. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Jerry, you want to talk Highland High? Do you have anything? Councilwoman Young, come on up.
Who? Oh, sure, yeah, Hannah, come on up.
Whoever wants.
Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Things are going great right now at Highland. We are.
Introduce yourself.
Jeremy Chatterton. I'm the principal at Highland High School. Go Rams.
I love how your voice went deeper when you
right. Always. No, things are going really great. We actually had an alumni concert last Friday evening.
And it was amazing.
And it was amazing. We had the piano guys, who I did not know this, but are both Highland alum, come back and perform. They did a fantastic concert. Our students were able to perform with them. It was really a great event. A lot of just great, great alumni acts that came back and performed. Nate Orchard was one of the MCs, so it was a great event. Also a fundraiser for our Highland Rams Foundation that Landon helps chair, and we were able to be very successful with that. Our basketball team, our boys basketball team, had a great season. Just finished lost in the semifinals at the Huntsman Center last week. So a little bit of a bittersweet, but really, really positive season for them. We're going now into spring sports, and you'll see our students out and about quite a bit. Runners out running in the neighborhoods as it's starting to get a little lighter. And also, I guess I will add, as the year progresses, we always end up with sophomores more and more turning 16, my daughter being one of them. So we have a bunch of increased drivers, probably about 200 more cars that are heading to Highland High throughout the morning and afternoon. So just to give you a heads up on that. Parking's always an issue. I get that. Believe me, it's a huge issue at our building as well. We're working on some different solutions. I guess last thing, the conversation is always around, the potential rebuild or what we're looking at for a rebuild. Still kind of sitting there. I know our school board has been doing a lot recently with school closures. So 4 elementaries, if you're not aware, 4 elementary schools in the city. The school board just decided to close at the end of this year. Now that process is finished, as finished as I guess it can be at the school board level, hopefully we can start to ramp up the conversation of rebuild of both Highland and West as also part of that as well. So more information hopefully coming on that. I think the question they have right now is, do they want to throw a bond on this fall with the presidential election, which I know it's typically not what they want to do, but there's also a little bit of nervousness right now with the bond of the downtown city center as well, not wanting to jump on or piggyback on that. So we'll see where the board decides to go, but I will be happy to keep you updated. And I think that's all I got. So I'm going to turn it over to way more important people than me.
Go Rams. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah from the mayor's office. I wish I could tell you this. Thank you. I wish I could tell you this is a really cool ski injury, but it's just a boring slip and fall and unrelated. But if any of you saw me,
I got one of those too.
if any of you saw me laying in the slush in front of Movies 10 on Saturday, please erase that from your memory. I just wanted to see Dune 2, but it was not in the cards for me. Okay, I just have a couple of quick updates. First, this week, the mayor announced a new Salt Lake City consumer protection portal that's really exciting. It's a chance for all of you to potentially submit consumer-related complaints about specific businesses, issues that you've had, maybe predatory business practices or even scams. The commitment on that new program is that you will receive a response from city staff within 5 business days of submitting that complaint. And hopefully that'll help us on the city end side of things track trends and make sure that our businesses are treating our residents fairly, just like the Neighborhood Hive is a stellar example of, always being wonderful and fair with their customers. Let's see, and particular attention will be paid to housing related complaints. We kind of forget, but renters at the end of the day are consumers. They are, doing a business transaction with their landlord. And so if you are a renter and are having issues with your landlord or feel like you aren't being treated fairly or know anyone who might need help with that, please direct them to this new portal to submit complaints. Those complaints will take priority because we know how important it is for people to not be displaced and hopefully be able to stay where they are. So you can access that consumer portal on the city's website. It's slc.gov/housing stability/consumer protection. That's a really long URL, but it is under our housing stability division just to kind of have that renter's angle of trying and providing them with as many resources as possible. And then next, I have community office hours coming up in the month of April. For those who don't remember, we switched to a different model, doing that every other month so that we can use the month leading up to them to promote and hopefully get people to attend. So I will be at, I'm giving you the District 6 and District 7 ones just in case, so you can have 2 options. On Monday, April 1st, I will be at Caputo's in 15th and 15th from noon to 2 p.m. Feel free to stop by. And then I will be at Tizonti on Wednesday, April 3rd from 10 a.m. to noon. So come by, get some tea. We can chat about the city. Bring your friends who maybe don't come to community council and talk about how great it is. So Does anyone have any questions for me? Yeah. 2 questions. Sorry, you go first.
Oh, yeah, with the 60 or more plans that the mayor laid out.
Hey, you know,
Talking in that language.
If there was the 60 or more plans that the mayor laid out, do you know anything on the sustainable spectrum and what you wanted with that?
Yeah, I would direct everyone to go to, I believe it's, I don't want to give you the wrong URL, so I'll have to look it up. I think it's slcmayorplan.com or .gov. But you can see all of the details that the mayor is hoping to accomplish just in this next year of her second term and the next 4 years of her second term. A number of those things are in line with her goals, as always, to preserve and protect our air quality and our watershed as much as possible, including protecting the Great Salt Lake. So I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about more of those details. And then there's another question here.
Your information, where can I find that? Everything that you lay out, like all these updates are great.
Thank you. Maybe we could come up with a system to get that information to you. I don't know if like a written update for the website would be helpful. I do that for some community councils where I just follow up with written notes after, and I'd be happy to do that for you guys.
Yeah, sure.
Great. And then you can always email me directly as well, hannah.barton@slcgov.com. Sorry. But yeah, my contact information is on the website, so feel free to reach out to me anytime with more in-depth questions or issues that you're running into with the city. Yeah.
We used to about like once a year get the mayor to come to these meetings. Are you planning that for 2024?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's one of the mayor's goals for the next year is to visit all the community councils. It's sometimes tricky because there's around 28 community councils and 90% of them meet on Wednesdays. There's only 4 Wednesdays a month, so it's a little bit tricky. But we can definitely.
But we're sugar.
For sure. I'll make sure you guys are on the top of the list. Great. Any other questions? Thanks, everyone.
Rick, come on.
Wait, you come on. Hey, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Just very quick, we're developing the First Congregational Church up on Foothill. We're trying to find a home for the Good Shepherd window. If any of you have a cause or anything, we're willing to donate that. There would be a slight charge involved in the move, but we're not charging anything for that. And if any of you have any recommendations, please contact me. Rick Plume. Thank you so much.
All right. So Sarah Young with City Council. Thank you all for being here. It's getting fun at City Council if you haven't been watching the meetings. So a couple of things that I just want to highlight, and then we'll end with the fun. So first and foremost, just to reflect back to last month where I asked all of our residents to reach out to their Utah representatives and senators to ask them to help us related to homeless funding. We did see action from the legislature, and in terms, yes, we did, Senator Bluin shaking his head in the back. We did see action that took it from basically not even a sustainment of what was currently happening to getting to about half of what the state had partnered with the mayor as well as other city municipalities to get. So from like what was probably an 8% of the ask to a little over 50%, that was a huge gain in the last few days of session. And it really does help us as a city, because right now, as a city and as residents of the city, your taxpayer dollars are going into supporting a lot of these solutions that really need to be larger community efforts and not just reliant on Salt Lake City residents. So with that said, I will note that because the resources weren't all the way to where we hoped they would be, we're going to be working with a lot of one-time money. And as a part of that, there's going to be some transition phases related to the shorter term housing opportunities, making a transition to a longer term state plan. And so we'll keep you posted on what that looks like. We have a lot of residents here in District 7 who interact a lot with our individuals experiencing homelessness, whether it is in the parks whether it is on the S line, whether it is in the business district, the underpasses. And so just know that your city is working on it, and that we do see a positive future in terms of additional partners in that work, so that it's not just Salt Lake who's moving that forward. So that's piece number one. Piece number two, actions from City Council last night, and then what happened at the end of the meeting. So actions that happened, just so you know, the City Council did move forward with the landscaping and the buffer amendments. We included collectively a statement related to those who installed artificial turf, that there is and this is again in your front yard or in your park strip. So what you do in your backyard, that's you. But in the front yard, if you have installed those pieces, there's a 180-day kind of period of transition where we're going to be working with those residents, trying to notify them. The turf was never allowed in the previous ordinance. It is not allowed now. Again, this is with a lot of input from our experts in sustainability about how that negatively impacts that ground in terms of the release of chemicals, especially those that are long lasting. And so we're moving forward with that component for all of the residents who have asked the question. So does this mean I have to change my front yard and my park strip? As long as it was already in compliance, there is no required changes. So you're basically grandfathered in terms of moving forward. If you were to redo your entire front yard, it would be subject to the new ordinance. So just keep that piece in mind. But we are moving forward with that. And I do think that that's a big win in terms of being able to help us in terms of water conservation across the city and ultimately our contributions to the Great Salt Lake. Next on the list, Sunnyside Park. This is a big one. We have a lot of folks who had a lot of interest related to the conversations happening around Sunnyside. If you weren't involved in those, the quick overview is that the University of Utah, who owns the property that is the baseball field that is in between the traditional parkland as well as the Steiner Aquatic Center, they're looking at redeveloping that into a stadium that their college team can play at. Right now it's a practice field. This is a need that the university has based on the fact that Smith's Ballpark and all of the movement that's happening and the upgrades happening in the ballpark area is not going to be a long-term solution for them where they've been playing, and they need to plan for the future. So before the council was a conversation about community benefit. So looking at if the city was willing to lease a slice of, and it is like a pie slice, of what is currently Sunnyside Park in exchange for an investment of $4.2 million in terms of improvements specific to Sunnyside Park, was that considered an ultimate community benefit? So the council collectively said, yes, it is. Now, does that mean there's a lease in place and we're all moving forward? No, it doesn't. But that step has to happen in terms of the next steps, in terms of negotiation with the administration, the university, and then the step after that, similar to what Kira just showed for Fairmont Park in D7, there would be a similar process for Sunnyside Park in terms of doing traditional community engagement. What do those improvements look like related to those next steps? That is a ways out. We do not expect to see a stadium there tomorrow. But this is progress that's happening related to those conversations. Next up, we had some additional action as well related to, and this is kind of the end of the meeting. So related to moving forward, we did a joint resolution related to Women's History Month. Thank you to all of the women who are here today. I appreciate you and your engagement here within the community. There was also a resolution related to public comment. So at Community Council, we have seen growing numbers of individuals coming to participate in general public comment. The general public comment time has gone from residents who often come, as some of our amazing leaders here in the front do, to usually lasting anywhere from 30 minutes to maybe an hour on a highly active night, to being over 3.5 hours. So that 3.5 hours, and in terms of being able to make a public statement related to concerns that are happening with the Middle East. in that space, what we have seen as council, and I will speak for myself in this place, what I have seen is I have seen members of this community walk out of those meetings without having an opportunity to be able to give public comment. Because it's not always reasonable for every single one of our residents to sit there for 3.5 hours to be able to then, contribute to something that is specific to the community and the city council's authority in action. So the city council is moving forward with a revised protocol, which is that for general comment, there will be an hour allotted for general comment, and that is available to individuals to sign up for on a first come, first served basis. Individuals will be limited to the 2 minutes that has always been the limit. If you use less than your 2 minutes, that may allow for other people to be able to speak. And so in using this, we do move towards a more structured aspect of public comment, but, and this is the but, it doesn't mean that is your only opportunity to comment. So I want to make sure all of our residents know that there are multiple ways that you can get in touch with me. Number one, here. So if you show up at Sugar House Community Council, I am here too. And it gives you a great opportunity to be able to say, hey, I have something for you related to one of the actions that I want to talk to you about. Second of all, email. We take email either through our personal emails, or you can email the general community council, or not community council, pardon me, city council public comment line, and then it goes to all the council members collectively. That's another great way to be able to share information. We oftentimes see residents who will email me directly, and they'll email the general public comment so that it goes to the community council members as well. You can call. I have a phone number. And I'm happy to share cards at the end of this as well in terms of that. Finally, you can set up a meeting. If there's something that you want to talk about that's more than just a passing conversation at the end of the meeting, and you really want to make sure we have plenty of time to talk about it, you have that option as well. So I want to be clear that everyone still has a voice. Everyone still has an opportunity. Now, one of the other things I want to address, because I know it's coming. So I think a lot of folks are like, wait a minute, but what does this mean for the Wells Fargo building? And like, are you telling us we only have an hour? And that is a concern. You're in luck. It doesn't. So for any of the items that are specific to an action around land use or change in policy, there is a specific comment period that is not a part of this general comment that is specific to that item. So these changes do not limit you in terms of, or anyone in this community, from being able to comment specific to that project. This is for the general comment period that occurs at the very end of the meeting. So I just want to allay any of those fears that somehow the community wouldn't have that opportunity. You will, and that will be a part of our general public hearing and public comment process once that moves forward, which it has not at this time. So with that, thank you for the opportunity.
Should we have Judy come up and ask about Wells Fargo?
Yeah, should we?
Yeah, okay.
Let's
Does anybody have any questions?
You guys had like 2 minutes I didn't get last night.
And I'm going to change because Sheldon and I were at the meeting last night. Sorry, Landon, I'm that person today.
I know you are.
You already knew that. It was, if you have not watched or gone to any of the city council meetings over the last 3 months or so, Sarah, our esteemed councilwoman, and her colleagues have had a very difficult situation to deal with. We saw it firsthand last night. It's been a huge strain on not just the 7 council members, but their support staff, our police force, CBI security, the whole city county building, I'm sure the janitors, everybody else. They have dealt with this issue with extreme grace and respect, and I'm so proud, and I was proud last night as they, it kind of came to a head. So thank you. I know that this change won't limit our ability to contact you. We're so grateful for that. So I just wanted to point out how proud I am that it's a sensitive issue, and the disrespect, unfortunately, that the city council has shown, even in the face of all that, they have remained professional and respectful and done their best to deal with a difficult situation that our Salt Lake City Council has been thrown into this international issue for some reason. Advocacy they become a victim sort of that. that energy. So thank you so much. So much respect had been gained. I mean, I loved you before, but will you marry me? No.
Thank you.
So much respect for how you dealt with this situation, and thank you for looking out for us as the citizens, our tax money and stuff.
Can you believe I don't have a lot to say? We don't have 14 projects staring us in the face, just the big one. And we don't know what's going on with that. What I know is that after our meeting on January 31st, we clearly made an impression. And they were immediately in the planning office the next morning wanting to talk to them about their project. So they're making changes. I don't know what they are. I don't know if their changes will be drastic enough that they'll come back to us with a different petition. And we'll have to go through the whole process again. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think I sent an email today to the trustees and the members of the land use committee with a link to where you can find those on our website. The letter I wrote, and it was a team effort. There were 6 or 7 of us. So we had, 30 pages of comments. My letter was about 6 pages. We had something like 282 comments from the public through the website. So all of those went to planning, and Landon's told me he's spoken with the petitioner and he wasn't too happy about our letter. All I can say is that's too bad. Yeah. I told you what I thought last time. You all thought the same thing. So we're just gonna stick to our guns and stick to the master plan. One thing we found was the, what's the flyer called? The flyer that, our vision statement. Sugar House Council has a vision statement for the master plan. And we used to pass it out before COVID. And then all those flyers stopped being passed out because we weren't meeting at the Legacy anymore. Well, they're all in a drawer at my house, and I found them the other day. And it spells out exactly what we said in our letter. So we're sticking to the plan. So we'll just see.
Lynn has a question for you, Sarah.
Judy,
Oh,
Judy,
and then right.
I just have one comment, and I haven't been able to read through your email. I got it later.
100 pages, you can't read it?
I haven't read it. I got it. But I was wondering, I know I was at the meeting, and I know I would say the community as a whole was against the project. But did anybody speak positively to the project? And if so, what did they say?
We had some people that did that. We had, 20 or 30 emails out of the 282 that were positive. What they said was, we need more density, we need more walkability. They were sort of all the same. We got some email addresses, but we didn't get any local, this is where I live, addresses on some of those. So I don't know if they were local people or what was going on. But there were people that thought it was cool. I'm not convinced they live right here in our neighborhood and have to walk through it all the time. Yes.
Judy, I just want to say I think it's cool.
Yeah, he's a lot.
Just say.
You like tall?
I love it.
Yeah, okay, great. Lynn?
As far as the general comments period, they also said you could submit video,
Yes,
which I thought was interesting.
yes. So we're trying to have more mechanisms that people are able to communicate through. So a lot of folks just want to be able to say something on their phone. They don't want to type it out, whatever that looks like. This just provides then another mechanism. So council staff are looking into that. That's not available today, but it will be available in the future.
It's sort of like an email that's spoken. Yeah.
I have a general question for you, either one of you. So I know about residential zones and business zones. What is a sustainability zone? And what does that entail? Is this
See,
new?
that's a great question. It's brand new. That's the whole point of this. So what it means is it doesn't take as much energy in terms of carbon into the atmosphere and that sort of thing to build these mass timber projects that are sawdust and glue. They're taking trees that are 10 or 12 feet tall, skinny trees, but they plant 1 billion of them. They chop them all up into sawdust and they stick them in this thing and they turn out to be this big.
So
and it's less energy used than waiting for a tree to grow for 200 years so it's tall and big.
So I understand that. It sounds like there's not limits. Like in business areas, there's 105, 110 foot limit in sugar house. And
It's more complicated than that. You want us to. I'll talk to you. Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
You mentioned, JD, you mentioned the plan, we're sticking to the plan. I honestly, could you go over that? Because I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about when you refer to our plan. What is it that we're sticking with?
The master plan that the community did back in 2005.
So that's the 105 height, the whole.
Right.
Right, we're sticking with the law, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We haven't changed
Just wanted to
our.
make sure. I wasn't trying to be glib. I just honestly
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
And I was being
Okay.
very bucks. Hard for me not to do that. Anything else? Okay.
Thanks. Shane, you have anything?
Here's approval of the minutes from January and February. If somebody gets moved to approve. Move to approve. Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks.
She's not.
I think we're done for tonight. Meeting adjourned, guys. Oh, wait, hold on. We have Senator Bluen and Ashland. We should probably hear from our representative. Ashland, come on up. Sorry. Nate doesn't. He talks fast.
Nate shaved. Sit down.
I ran into your great product, and it was the last day of session. I had a beard going. Oh, I really had to get in there. Okay. We're used to having microphones right in our face at the Capitol. So, yeah, the beard's gone. It was fun while it lasted. Maybe I'll bring it back next year. First of all, I'll give a shout out to the council. I think that's a really forward-looking, important move they're making with public comment. You know, we see it at the Capitol too, where sometimes things get out of hand, and it's really important to find ways to deal with it so that we can get everyone on the record. So often we run out of time for comments at the Capitol, and everything gets rushed through. And so I'm glad Salt Lake City is addressing that and trying to move forward in a way that gives people an opportunity to show up and say what they need to say. Let's see. So the legislature session ended on late Saturday morning. I won't do too much as far as in-depth stuff. You can sign up for my newsletter if you want to know more, and I'll keep trying to update. But a couple of things I'll highlight, really I'll try and go positive and negative. From a negative, the process towards the end of session, as always, but really this year in particular, it was an election year. It's terrible. We skipped committee meetings. We skipped floor debates on a lot of bills. It's really depressing to see how little consideration some of these important decisions get. You know, some of these, the stadium discussions, some other things came up to the last minute and didn't get addressed to the level I would like to see. And so we don't have all the information on those things a lot of times until they come right before us on the floor in a committee meeting, and makes it really tough to make good decisions. So in the future, you know, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I would like to see things slow down, work their way through. A 45-day session is very rushed, and it would be great to have more time. And that's not how it's going to work, but I'll keep asking for it and trying to point out the things that get passed through without a full consideration. So one thing that happened on the last night of session that maybe folks missed, there was a bill to encourage or require the Salt Lake District Attorney. So it was only
this Salt Lake district attorney. It was not other district attorneys, just talking about Sim Gill. And some language got thrown into that bill very late in the evening that basically says that the Supreme Court and or the governor, I'm not exactly sure how the mechanism works, can come in and overrule and essentially put in a temporary district attorney. Now that is really anti-democratic. It is really concerning that the legislature can come in and say, hey, we don't like some of the decisions that Sim Gill made, so we're gonna input our own person and have them make these decisions for Salt Lake County. So I think that's gonna be one of the more influential things that happened during session. I think it's hard to forecast what that means right now, but certainly really concerning and one of those process things that happened very last minute that we're going to be watching out to see how it influences things here in the county. Okay, for a positive, nothing too bad happened with Parley's Canyon. So there was, lots of talk. Many bills came forward addressing that situation to make it easier to build infrastructure, essentially requiring, one of them would have required Salt Lake City itself to extend infrastructure outside of existing city limits and provide water and sewer and that sort of things to the Parley's Canyon project. That bill didn't go anywhere. It was killed, which is great. Another one was started off really poorly, and then it changed pretty significantly throughout session. And so we're going to get a study essentially to look at, I think it'll include both Parley's and then also other areas where we can maybe get these, what they call critical infrastructure materials, which is just gravel. And, it is important to have these sources somewhat close to the areas that you're going to be using them, like the county, where we're growing and developing things. But we've got to be very, very conscientious about where it comes from. The canyon with the winds, all those things, probably not the best place. So thankfully that's going to be a study, and hopefully, I do worry a little bit that it could kind of focus on Parley's and say, hey, this is the best place and we're just going to go forward with it. So that's something to watch out for and push back on as we see that. If that is the narrative, making sure that we stand up and speak our minds on that one. But hopefully it addresses some other areas where we can get that sort of stuff. So that's a kind of a win. Positive and negative. We didn't do much on the Great Salt Lake. That's a bummer for me. There were some bills passed that did some good stuff on mineral development out of the lake and address some planning issues, but no real, fast action that's going to really help things out. The good news is, the lake is looking a lot better right now. We've had, a great winter last year, good winter this year. The soil moisture is high, so I think the lake's at about 41.94 right now, which is still much lower than we'd like it, but I think by June we're going to see a pretty good recovery, and then the whole ball game will be making sure we've got those plans in the future. And I'll be working closely with the Great Salt Lake Commissioner and some of these other organizations to make sure there's a plan going forward. So happy to take any questions if anyone has specifics. But newsletter, follow along. We can certainly get into a longer discussion about what happened, but I'm still recovering.
Representative.
I know I'm the last thing separating you from leaving, so I'm going to talk really fast. My name is Ashlyn Grewell. I'm Jeff Howell's campaign manager. He's running to be one of your Democratic candidate for the House of Representatives, the Utah State House of Representatives, House District 23. I met some of you around the neighborhood, some of you at caucus night last night, which, speaking of, Brian King has endorsed us and did so last night. So very exciting news for the Howell campaign. I have some literature here if you want to learn more about Jeff, or you can ask me any questions that you have. He's been a member of this community for a really long time. He's very passionate about it. I wish he could be here, but he is out of town on a work conference. He flew in for caucus night and then had to fly back out at 10 p.m. So he is a busy man, but he wants to hear from you guys. He wants to be the most accessible legislator you've ever met. His phone number, personal cell is on the back of all of these pieces of legislature. And like I said, literature. Like I said, I can try to answer any questions that you have. So thank you so much for coming out and being civically engaged. It's really great to see. and I hope to meet a lot of you. So have a great night.
Thanks for coming tonight, guys.
Tell them the register's open.
And the register's open for cinnamon rolls if anybody wants some.